The young waitress gently slid a plate of warm pancakes toward the boy in the corner booth, her voice a soft whisper. Same as yesterday, sweetie. No charge. She never pried, never asked why he came alone every morning, or why his eyes looked so much older than his years. But that morning, just as she wiped down the counter, the world outside froze. Four black SUVs rolled up to the diner, and a man in a decorated military uniform stepped out, holding a single folded letter. Who were they, and why had they come for her? Emily Carter was 27 years old, a waitress at Maggie's Diner, tucked between an aging gas station and a shuttered bookstore on the quiet outskirts of Cedar Ridge, Montana. Her life had long settled into a rhythm. Wake before the sun, tie her faded apron around her waist, and offer weary smiles to truckers, farmers, and retirees who had nowhere else to be. She lived in a modest studio above an old movie theater, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and the hum of forgotten dreams. Family was a few creased photographs tucked inside a Bible. Her parents, both gone too soon, and a younger brother she'd lost touch with when the foster system scattered them like leaves. It was early October when she first noticed him. A boy, no older than 10, small and wiry, carrying a backpack that seemed to weigh more than he did. Every morning at 6:45, like clockwork, he'd slip into the farthest booth by the window. Always alone, always with a tattered book cracked open in front of him, always ordering. Just a glass of water. At first, Emily thought nothing of it. Maybe he was waiting for a parent. Maybe he just liked the smell of bacon and coffee. But days turned into a week, then two. Always the same. Water, silence. A ghost in a corner booth. On the 15th morning, moved by something she couldn't name, Emily accidentally delivered a plate of scrambled eggs and toast to his table. "Oh, looks like the kitchen messed up an order," she said with an easy shrug, setting it down. "Would hate to see it go to waste." The boy looked up, his gaze sharp, suspicious. He hesitated, hands clenched in his lap, until Emily winked and walked away, giving him space to decide. When she returned, the plate was empty. He never said, "Mom," just a small, almost imperceptible thank you as he slid the plate forward. It became their silent ritual. Some mornings pancakes, others oatmeal with brown sugar when the air turned crisp. She never asked his name, never asked why he came alone. She just made sure the food was hot and the water glass full. Of course, people noticed. Small towns see everything, and not everyone approved. "You keep feeding strays, you'll have a line out the door," grumbled Dale, the local mailman, shaking his head. "Charity doesn't teach them responsibility," warned Maggie herself, owner of the diner, her tone more tired than cruel. Even so, Emily persisted, dipping into her tips, skipping her own dinners sometimes just to keep the boy's plate full. She remembered too well what hunger felt like. Hunger for food, hunger for safety, hunger for someone to care without asking for anything back. The boy never told her his name, never spoke of parents, school, or home. But Emily noticed the little things, how he always sat where he could see the door, how he flinched at sudden noises, how his small frame tensed like he was ready to run at any moment. Still, day after day, he returned, and day after day, she fed him. Until one Thursday, he didn't come. The clock ticked past 7, then 8. No backpack, no book, no boy. She prepared his usual plate anyway, leaving it steaming on the table, ignoring the looks from customers. By noon, she threw it out cold. The next day, no boy, and the next, and the next. Whispers started, pitying glances, snide remarks about feeding ghosts. One morning, she found her act of kindness mocked on a local Facebook group. New Cedar Ridge tradition, serving invisible customers. The comments stung more than she cared to admit. Was she foolish? Was kindness just a way to set yourself up for heartbreak? Late that night, curled up in bed, she opened an old journal, her mother's. Inside, a quote, "You don't need to know the whole story to feed a soul. Love first, questions can wait." 3 weeks later, it happened. At 8:57 a.m., just as Emily was wiping down the counter, the low rumble of engines made the diner vibrate. Customers looked up. Forks hovered midair. Outside, 4 gleaming black SUVs rolled into the gravel lot with a precision that made your skin prickle. The doors opened in perfect sync, and out stepped men in military uniforms. Stoic, imposing. At their center, a man in a highly decorated officer's dress blues. Tall, stern, the kind of man whose presence commanded silence. He carried a crisp envelope clutched tightly in one hand. The officer stepped inside. The diner fell deathly silent. "I'm looking for Emily Carter," he announced, his voice steady, respectful. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs. Setting down her rag, she stepped forward, feeling every eye in the room land heavy on her. "I'm Emily," she said. The officer's face softened. He removed his cap. "My name is Colonel Samuel Hart, U.S. Army Special Operations Command. I come on behalf of a soldier and his son." Confused, Emily wiped her palms on her apron. The colonel explained. The boy's name was Jacob Matthews. His father, Sergeant Daniel Matthews, had been deployed overseas on a classified mission. While he was gone, Jacob's mother had abandoned him, leaving the boy to fend for himself in their small trailer on the outskirts of town. Too scared to reach out for help, Jacob had survived on his own for months, until Emily's kindness became his lifeline. A hush swept the diner as the colonel continued. "Sergeant Matthews was killed in action 6 weeks ago," he said quietly. "But before he died, he wrote a letter, a final request. He asked that if anything happened to him, the Army find the woman who fed his son and thank her." The colonel handed Emily the envelope. Inside, on rough military stationery, were a few words scribbled in a shaky hand. "To the woman who fed my boy, you gave him hope when I couldn't. You made sure he was seen when he felt invisible. You are part of our family now. Thank you for saving my son's spirit." Tears blurred Emily's vision. She clutched the letter to her chest, overwhelmed by the weight of what she had unknowingly carried. Then something extraordinary happened. The colonel stood at attention and saluted her. Sharp, formal. A salute reserved not for civilians, but for heroes. One by one, the other officers outside joined him. Even customers in the diner rose from their seats, hats over hearts, silence thick with emotion. A waitress with an apron and a stubborn heart had saved a boy's soul. Without medals, without rank, without even knowing it. The story spread like wildfire. The diner's Facebook page exploded with messages of gratitude. Veterans passing through town made it a point to stop at Maggie's. Some left coins, some left patches, some just left silent thanks. Maggie, the once gruff owner, hung a small flag above Jacob's old booth with a brass plaque underneath, "For the unseen battles and the warriors who fight them." Emily never bragged, never capitalized on the story. She kept the sergeant's letter framed behind the counter. A private reminder that sometimes the simplest acts, the ones no one notices, become the ones that matter most. And every morning, without fail, she set aside a plate of pancakes, just in case another boy, another girl, another invisible soul might walk through the door, hungry not just for food, but for kindness, because you never know when a small plate of pancakes might just save a life. If you believe that quiet acts of kindness still change the world, type "believe" in the comments. Subscribe for more incredible real-life stories where love, honor, and humanity are never forgotten.